Part 1. I was never the type to overthink things, but with Tyler, I couldn't help myself. He laughed too loud when I made a dumb joke. He hugged me like he meant it, and sometimes he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. He had a girlfriend. He always had a girlfriend. So why did it feel like I was the one he truly saw? It started the summer after high school. We'd both gotten into different colleges. Me in Chicago, him in New York. But for those few months, before everything changed, we were just Eli and Tyler, best friends in 6th grade, always together. And maybe, just maybe, something more. That night, we were lying on his roof, stars above, quiet between us. Tyler turned his head toward me, his voice barely a whisper. "You ever think about us?" I felt my heart stop. I didn't move. "What do you mean?" I asked, try not to sound breathless. He chuckled. "I don't know. Just if we weren't who we are, if things were different." He didn't look at me after that. Just went quiet, like he'd said too much. And I didn't know what to say either. I wanted to ask what he meant, but I was terrified of the answer. Because deep down, I'd always wondered, was Tyler just affectionate? Or was he hiding something? Next day, he acted normal again. Almost too normal. He texted Claire more. He even brought her to our movie nights. And I hated how small I felt beside them, like an extra in my own story. But then he'd turn to me, smile that half smile, touch my shoulder when he laughed, and I'd spiral all over again. One afternoon, Claire left early. Tyler and I were alone in his basement. The air felt heavy. He looked over at me and said something I'll never forget. "If I told you a secret, would you still look at me the same?" I turned to him, my throat dry. "Try me." But before he could answer, his phone buzzed. "Claire." Again. He sighed, looked at the screen, then stood up. "Never mind," he muttered. "Forget I said anything." But I couldn't, and I wouldn't, because the way he looked at me that night, like he wanted me to know, was burned into my mind. I needed answers, but was I ready to hear them? If you've ever questioned whether a friend was hiding something deeper, you're not alone. This story is for every person who's felt the silence between words. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story if it hit you right in the heart. Question for you. Do you think Tyler is actually hiding his feelings for Eli, or is Eli just overthinking everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. Tyler never brought up that moment again, the one where he almost told me something. But I couldn't forget it. No matter how much he pretended it didn't happen. A week later, I found myself sitting across from him at a diner. Same booth we claimed for years. Same order. His greasy burger, my pancakes at 3 p.m. But this time, everything felt different. He wasn't laughing as much. He kept checking his phone. And when Claire's name lit up the screen, again he silenced it. "You two okay?" I asked, pretending to stir my syrup. He shrugged, didn't look at me. "She thinks I've been distant." "Have you?" His jaw tightened. "Maybe. I dunno. I think I just feel like I'm not really in it anymore." I looked up. He finally met my eyes. And for a second, it was like time stopped. "Were you in then?" I asked. I wasn't trying to be bold. It just came out. He blinked, like I'd touched something raw inside him. "That's the problem," he said. "I don't know." The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was loaded, electric. I could hear the hum of the fridge behind the counter, the clink of forks on plates. But between us, there was only breath and something unspoken. He finally stood up, tossing a few bills on the table. "Let's get out of here." We walked without saying much, down to the park near his place, the one with the empty baseball field and rusted swings. He climbed up into the bleachers. I followed. We just sat, side by side, watching nothing. Then, without looking at me, he said, "There's this part of me that I don't think anyone really knows." My throat went tight. "What part?" He turned, eyes shining just a little. "The part that doesn't feel like I'm being honest. With Claire." with my parents, even with myself. And with you? I asked, voice barely there. He nodded. Especially with you. I couldn't take it anymore. Tyler, what are you trying to say? He looked away again, clenched his fists. If I tell you, everything changes. And I don't want to lose you. That sentence broke me, because he didn't say he didn't feel it. He said he didn't want to lose me. You're not going to lose me, I whispered, not for being honest. Just then his phone buzzed again. Claire, he silenced it, without even glancing at the screen. I think I'm in love with the wrong person, he muttered. But it feels so damn right when I'm with them. My heart slammed in my chest, because that had to mean me, didn't it? I opened my mouth to speak, to finally say it, but he stood up too quickly. I should get home. Just like that, the moment passed. He walked away, leaving me in the bleachers, breathless and burning. And I sat there for a long time, asking myself the question I've been avoiding. Was Tyler trying to come out to me? Or was I just reading into something that wasn't there? I don't think I slept that entire night, not even a minute. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept seeing that same look on Drew's face, that mixture of fear, confusion, and something I couldn't name. He was my best friend, and now I was stuck wondering, was he hiding something, or had I just imagined the whole thing? The next morning, I avoided him like the plague. I left for class earlier than usual, tried to ignore the ache in my chest when I passed by his door. I needed space to think, because what if I was wrong? What if Drew wasn't gay at all, and last night was just a messing with me? Or worse, testing me? I couldn't afford to ruin the one good friendship I had left. But deep down, a darker thought kept creeping in. What if Drew was hiding it? What if he was just scared like I had been for years? That's when I remembered something he'd said the night we first moved in together. You know, I've never really had a friend I could just be real around. At the time, I thought he meant emotionally. But what if he meant more? That day in class, I couldn't focus. Every guy who brushed past me, every laugh Drew ever gave, it was all rewinding in my mind like a messed up movie reel. Was I overanalyzing? Or was something actually there? Later that afternoon, I came home to find Drew in the kitchen. He looked up like he'd been waiting for me. Hey, you disappeared this morning, he said lightly. Yeah, had an early lab. I lied. He nodded, but his eyes didn't move away. Listen, about last night. My stomach clenched. Here it was, the moment of truth. But instead of finishing, he laughed nervously and said, I was just being dumb. I had too much Red Bull, and I don't know, I act weird when I'm tired. My heart dropped. Of course, the classic cover-up. No worries, I said quickly. We've all done weird stuff at 2 a.m., but I couldn't look at him. Then he said something strange. You're not weirded out or anything, right? Why would he ask that? No, man. I forced a laugh. You're fine. But deep down, my thoughts were screaming. If nothing happened, then why was he so nervous? That night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I texted my old friend, Riley, the only other person who knew I was gay. She lived in another state now, but I knew she'd keep it real with me. If a straight guy stares at you like he wants to kiss you, then says he's just tired, what does that mean? She replied almost instantly, Riley, it means he's either confused or scared, or both. Riley, just be careful, okay? Closeted boys break hearts without even meaning to. Her words haunted me, because I had been that closeted boy once, and I had broken someone before. The next few days were awkward. Drew went back to normal, too normal. He avoided eye contact. He stopped sitting next to me on the couch, and he never brought up that night again. But I noticed something else too. He started talking about girls a lot, out of nowhere. Every story ended with, this one chick I met. Or, man, if she wasn't taken. It felt forced, like he was putting on a show. Until Friday night, when everything shifted again. We were supposed to meet up with a group for drinks. I was halfway dressed when Drew knocked on my door. He looked a little out of breath. Hey, Change of plans, he said. I'm not going. Why not? I asked, confused. Just not feeling it. Want to do something chill instead? Like just us? My heart skipped. Was this another one of his mixed signals? We ended up sitting on the roof of our building with beers in hand, legs dangling over the edge. The city lights looked softer than usual, quieter, more honest. Ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Drew asked. His voice was low, almost sad. All the time, I said honestly. He looked at me for a long time, like you're performing, even when no one's watching. And then he said something I'll never forget. If I ever told you something big, would you still be cool with me? The beer bottle slipped a little in my hand. Of course, I said softly. Always. But he didn't say anything after that. He just looked back out over the skyline and kept whatever was buried inside. But I knew, even if he wouldn't say it out loud, Drew was hiding something. And now, I wasn't sure if I could handle being the only one who saw the truth. Part 2. We didn't talk much after that night, but something had changed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Zach's face. His expression right after he asked me that question, do you ever think about us? The truth? I hadn't stopped thinking about it since high school, but I didn't know how to say that out loud. So I stayed quiet, just like always. Then, 3 days later, he texted me, Hey, you free tonight? Thought we could grab food, just catch up. My heart skipped. Why did this feel like more than just old friends reconnecting? Still, I replied, Yeah, 7 okay? He sent a thumbs up emoji. Classic Zach. We met at a tiny diner downtown. Same booth we used to sit in with the whole football crowd. Back when I was invisible, unless he needed a laugh at my expense. But this time, he slid in next to me. Not across. Next to me. Hope that's okay, he said. His knee brushed mine. I nodded. Try not to choke on my water. We ordered burgers, fries, milkshakes. It was so normal, so painfully normal, that I almost forgot I used to flinch when he walked past me in the hallway. Then he leaned in. You're quiet, Zach said. Still mad at me? That hit deep, because I wasn't sure. I'm not mad, I said. I just don't know what you want from me. He went still, like I'd just exposed him. I don't know either, he said honestly. But when I saw you again, I felt something I never let myself feel before. I didn't say anything. I couldn't, but the silence said it all. He walked me home that night. Neither of us said what we were really thinking, but the way our arms brushed with every step, the way he didn't step back when we stood outside my door, it was like standing on the edge of something terrifying. Before he left, he said, You're not the same scared kid anymore, Ethan, and I'm not the same jerk. Then he smiled, soft, unsure, and walked off into the dark. I didn't sleep that night. I kept wondering, what happens if I let him back in? What happens if I already have? Zach didn't come to school the next day, or the day after that, and suddenly, the silence felt louder than ever. Ryan noticed. Of course he did. He asked casually in homeroom, Have you seen Zach around? Thought you two were talking again. I just shrugged. Maybe he realized talking to me was a mistake. I didn't mean it to sound bitter, but I guess it was. Because for a moment there, Zach had made me forget the past, forget who he used to be. And now he'd vanished, just like that. That night, I couldn't sleep. So I opened my phone and went to chat. Zach's name still sat there, unopened, unanswered. But something in me said, try again. Hey, you okay? I stared at it, then hit send. Nothing. Hours passed, and still nothing. The next day, I was walking down the hallway when I saw Caleb leaning against a locker. Zach's cousin, the quiet one. He looked up just as I passed. Our eyes met, and for a split second, his face changed, like he knew something. I slowed down. Hey, have you seen Zach? Caleb didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, "He's not doing great. He needed space." "Is it because of me?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked at me again, and this time he studied me. "No," he said, "but I think he doesn't know how to be honest, especially not with you." That shook something in me. "What does that mean?" I asked, trying to sound calm, but I wasn't. Caleb just gave a faint smile. "You're not as invisible as you think, Ethan," then walked away. "That night," Zach replied, "meet me behind the gym, tomorrow after school." I didn't even think before texting back, "I'll be there." The school day dragged like slow torture. Every minute ticked like thunder in my chest. When the final bell rang, I walked straight out the back, toward the field, toward the trees behind the gym. And there he was, Zach, hood up, hands in his pockets, leaning against the wall like he hadn't just disappeared for days. "You came," he said, voice low. "Of course I did," I replied. He didn't look up, didn't meet my eyes, just said, "I freaked out that night at the party. I didn't mean to disappear." I nodded, trying to stay calm. I figured. Zach finally looked up at me, and in his eyes was something raw, unfiltered. "I don't know what this is," he said, "but it scares the hell out of me." I wanted to ask what he was talking about, but I already knew. Instead, I said, "You don't have to label anything, Zach. I want you to be real with me." He stepped closer, not too close, but enough that I could feel it, the tension, the pull. "You were right," he whispered. "I did push you back then because I was angry, but not at you. I didn't understand why I noticed you the way I did." The silence between us stretched like a wire, thin, tight, ready to snap. Then Zach asked, almost a whisper, "Do you hate me?" "No," I said. "I think I did once, but not anymore." Zach looked down, then back at me. "Can I show you something?" He reached into his bag and pulled out an old photo, worn edges, 2 boys on a bike, me and him, middle school. "I kept it," he said. "Even when I pretended I hated you, I never really did." My throat tightened. This was the moment, the crack in the wall. And all I could think was, if I reached for him now, would he let me? But before I could move, a voice behind us cut the moment in half. "Zach." We turned. It was Miles, new kid, new neighbor, standing there, staring like he just walked in on something sacred. His eyes shifted from Zach to me, then back again. "I didn't mean to interrupt," he said slowly. Zach stiffened. "Why are you here?" Miles shrugged, awkward. "I saw Ethan come back here. Thought, maybe never mind." The moment was gone, shattered. Zach stepped back, stuffing the photo into his jacket. "I should go," he mumbled. I didn't stop him. Not this time. Later that night, a message came from Ryan. "You okay?" I stared at it for a long time, then typed back, "I don't know." Because honestly, neither did I. Zach didn't come to class the next day, or the day after that. And by the 3rd day, I was losing it. He had just vanished, like none of what we'd shared ever happened. No explanation, no reply to my texts, no online status. Nothing. I tried focusing during lectures, but everything sounded like static. All I could think about was his voice, the way he said my name, the way his fingers had brushed against mine. I finally decided to ask Jake, Zach's roommate. Jake wasn't exactly friendly with me, but he wasn't hostile either. We'd passed each other a few times in the dorm hallway. That night, I knocked on their door. Jake opened it with a half-eaten granola bar in his mouth and headphones around his neck. Hey, is Zach around?" I asked. Jake raised an eyebrow. He went home. Family stuff, I think. Then added, didn't say much. My heart sank. "Is he okay?" "I don't know, man. He was quiet as hell the night he left, packed up and bounced." Jake glanced at me like he wanted to say more, but didn't. Instead, he shrugged. "Sorry. That was it. Zach was gone, and I had no idea when or if he was coming back. I walked back to my room, numb. The hallway lights flickered slightly. Or maybe that was just in my head. I sat on my bed, stared at the wall, tried to breathe. My phone buzzed. Not a message from Zach. Just Ethan, my best friend. Ethan, my best friend. Hey man, you good? You've been quiet. I stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Finally, I replied, Me? Not really. It's Zach, he left. No word. Just gone. Ethan's reply came fast. Ethan, dude, I'm coming over. He showed up 15 minutes later, hoodie on, breath fogging in the cold night air. He didn't ask questions right away. He just sat beside me on the bed and waited. When I finally spoke, the words poured out. The kiss, the night at the lake, Zach shaking hands, his fear, his warmth. Ethan listened, didn't interrupt once. When I was done, he looked at me with his calm, steady gaze. You really care about him, huh? I nodded. More than I should, probably. Ethan leaned back, hands clasped behind his head. You know what's wild? He said. I always thought Zach was trying too hard to act like he wasn't noticing you. I looked at him, confused. What do you mean? He asked about you more than anyone else in the group. Ethan shrugged. He always asked if you were coming, where you'd been. Even got kind of weird when he saw us hanging out alone. My chest tightened. So Zach had been thinking about me. He's scared, I muttered, of being honest, of what it means. Ethan nodded slowly. You gonna wait for him? I didn't know how to answer that. Would he ever come back? A few days later, I got a message. Unknown number. Zach, I didn't know who else to talk to. Can I call you? My fingers trembled as I typed. Me? Yes, always. Seconds later, my phone rang. I picked up, holding my breath. Hey, Zach's voice was soft, shaky, like he'd been crying. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't mean to disappear. I freaked out. I get it, I said. I really do. He told me everything. How his dad had found the lake house photo on his phone. How there was yelling. Silence. Then more yelling. He asked me if I was gay. Zach said. And I said no. I lied. I could hear the pain in his voice. I said no, and he told me to stop hanging around people who confuse you. I clenched the bedsheet, furious, not at Zach, but at what he'd been forced to endure. You didn't lie to protect yourself, I said softly. You lied because he gave you no choice. Silence, then a sniff, then, I miss you. I froze. Those words, I'd been dying to hear them. But hearing them now, it felt fragile. I miss you too, I whispered. Then let me come back, he said. Let me fix what I broke. My heart, it cracked open. Come back, Zach. I'll be here. Part 3. He didn't say a word on the ride back. Not even when the wind picked up and the first raindrops splattered against the windshield. Zach just sat there, arms crossed, eyes locked on the blur of streetlights. Like if he focused hard enough, maybe he'd forget what happened at Max's party. I kept glancing at him, wanting to say something, anything, but every word I thought it felt like a trap. Too soft, and he'd think I pitted him. Too honest, and I might lose him completely. When we got to my place, he didn't even wait for me to say goodnight, just muttered, later, and walked off into the rain like he was trying to disappear into it. I stood in the doorway for a while, watching his silhouette fade. My heart was heavier than it had ever been. The next 3 days were hell. No texts, no calls. He skipped school, didn't show up for practice. I was worried something had snapped inside him. Or worse, he regretted everything. I checked his socials. Nothing. I even asked Max if he'd heard from him. Max just shrugged. He's being weird, probably hiding out at his uncle's again. But I knew better. He wasn't hiding from the world. He was hiding from me. It was the fourth night when I heard the knock. Soft, like he wasn't sure he even wanted me to hear it. I pulled open the door, and there he was, soaked, shivering, hoodie clinging to his body. I didn't say a word, just stepped aside. He walked in slowly, didn't meet my eyes, didn't speak until I closed the door behind him. Then, "I'm sorry." His voice cracked on the second word. I turned to him, and what I saw broke me. His eyes, red, puffy. He'd been crying. "I didn't know where else to go," he whispered. "I thought maybe if I stayed away long enough, this feeling would go away." I stepped closer, but didn't touch him. Not yet. Not when he was this raw. "What feeling?" I asked gently. He looked up, and the storm behind his eyes made my breath hitch. "You," he said. "You're in my head, Eli, constantly." I close my eyes, and it's you. I sleep, and I dream about that night, about what it meant, and I don't even know what it meant. He broke off. I waited, let him unravel. "I was never supposed to feel this," he said. "Not for a guy, not for you." And then quieter, "But I do." I didn't speak, didn't rush to comfort him. Instead, I walked past him, sat on the edge of my bed. "Come here," I said softly. He hesitated. Then he moved, step by step, like every inch closer, made it harder to breathe. He sat next to me, close but not touching. His hands were in his lap, fists clenched, like he was afraid he might break. "Zach," I said, turning to him, "you don't have to figure it all out tonight." He looked at me, eyes wide, afraid. "But I kissed you, Eli," he said. "I kissed you, and I want to do it again. And now I can't stop thinking about it." I reached over. My fingers brushed his. He didn't pull away. Instead, he turned his hand and locked his fingers with mine. It was the smallest thing, but it felt like the whole world shifted. We sat there like that for minutes, silent, still, but not distant. And then he leaned his head against my shoulder. "I'm scared," he whispered. "So am I said back. Then we laughed, soft, shaky, but real, for the first time in days. We weren't pretending. Zach didn't leave that night. He stayed, curled up under my blanket, back to back, not touching, but not needing to. His breathing slowed, matched mine. Like maybe in sleep, we understood each other more than we did awake. I stared at the ceiling for hours. My heart refused to slow down, because I knew something now, something real. Zach may not have had all the answers, but he didn't push me away, and that meant everything. In the morning, I woke to the smell of rain, and to find Zach still there, still asleep. His hair was a mess, one arm flung across my pillow, mouth slightly open. I didn't want to move, didn't want to break that perfect moment. But as I watched him sleep, something inside me changed. This wasn't just a one-night confession. This wasn't confusion. This was real. And now, I had to protect it. Whatever was between us, it was fragile, new, but it mattered so much more than I'd realized. It had been 3 days since a bonfire, 3 days since Zach and I sat by the fire, and he looked at me like he was about to say something that could ruin everything. But he didn't say it. He just walked away. And now everything felt off. Even when we were all together, me, Zach, Tyler, Jake, and Ben, something had shifted, especially between me and Zach. We were all sitting in Jake's basement that night. The air was thick with old pizza smell and Call of Duty gunfire. Tyler was yelling at the TV. Ben had his head back, half asleep. Jake was on his phone, barely listening. And Zach was sitting across the room from me, not next to me like he used to, not laughing like he used to, just quiet. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up. "Hey," I said, "I need some air." I didn't expect him to follow me, but he did. We stepped outside onto the back porch. Cold air rushed over my face like a slap. I heard the door close behind us. I didn't even have to look. I knew it was Zach. For a moment, we both just stood there, saying nothing, breathing. Finally, he said, "You've been weird lately." I laughed bitterly. Me? You've been avoiding me. He looked away. I'm trying not to mess things up. Too late, I said. I don't even know what we are anymore. His voice was quiet. I don't either. I turned toward him. The porch light above us flickered. His eyes were dark, tired. Zach! I started, but I didn't even know where I was going with it. Don't, he whispered. I want to say it, but I can't. Why? I asked. He stared at the ground. And finally, he looked up and said, because if I say it, then it's real. And if it's real, I have to choose. The words punched the air out of me. I whispered, choose what? He stepped closer, his breath visible in the cold. You or everything else. I felt my throat tighten. My heart raced. I never asked you to choose, I said. But I'm already doing it, he whispered. And then he walked past me, back inside, leaving me alone. Later that night, Jake texted me. Everything okay between you and Zach? Even Ben noticed. I didn't reply. What could I even say? That I was falling for someone who might be straight? Or worse, someone who wasn't ready to stop pretending? The next morning, Tyler cornered me at school. Dude, he said, pulling me aside near the lockers. What the hell's going on? I shook my head. Nothing. Just stuff. Zach's acting like you stole his dog or something, he said. You guys fight. I shrugged. Not really. Tyler narrowed his eyes. You sure? Because this ain't just normal moody Zach. He keeps checking his phone like he's waiting on a bomb to go off. I smiled weakly. That's just Zach. You know him. But inside, I didn't even know me anymore. Everything felt upside down. That night, I got a message from Ben. You okay? Just 2 words. But somehow they broke me. Ben wasn't the type to send stuff like that. I replied, not really, just confused. A minute later, he wrote, you don't have to say anything, but if you need someone who gets it, I'm here. That message stayed in my head the whole night. I started wondering, how many of us were hiding things we didn't know how to say? At 1:42 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I got out of bed, went to the window, texted Zach. I miss when we could just be normal. I watched the message deliver. No reply. I stayed by that window until the first light of morning hit the rooftops. He never texted back. Chris was already gone when I woke up. His side of the room was empty, bed made, shoes missing, and that scent of his cologne still faint in the air. I stared at the ceiling, my chest tight with leftover tension from the night before. It was like I had crossed a line I didn't even know existed. I replayed that moment in the kitchen. The way Zach looked at me, half curious, half challenging. The space between us filled with things we hadn't said. Chris had seen us. He didn't say a word, but I could feel it in his silence. The way he shut down the moment we got to the room. I sat up in bed, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. I needed air, and maybe answers. I found Chris outside, sitting on the hood of his car, sipping coffee. His jaw clenched when he saw me approaching. Hey, I said carefully. He nodded without looking at me. I climbed up next to him, feeling the warmth of the morning sun fighting against the chill in the air. You're mad, I said. I'm not mad. He finally looked at me. I'm just surprised. At what? Chris took a breath. I didn't know you and Zach were like that. We're not. I mean, we're not anything. It just happened. You kissed him, Daniel. That doesn't just happen. I looked away. He wasn't wrong. Do you like him? That question hit me hard. I didn't know what to say. I thought about Zach's eyes, his smirk, the way he leaned in. I don't know. Maybe. Chris stared straight ahead. Zach's complicated. He's not good at being real. I nodded. Neither am I lately. That afternoon, the group decided to go on a short hike. Zach, Jake, Ethan, Chris, and I took the trail that looped behind the cabin, winding through tall pines. The air was clean, almost too clean. Zach kept stealing glances at me, but didn't say a word. Jake cracked jokes to keep things light. Ethan walked ahead with Chris, the two of them in hushed conversation. I felt like I was floating somewhere in the middle, between what happened and what I wanted to forget. At a clearing, we all sat down to rest. Zach finally came and sat next to me. Close. Too close. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. I shrugged. "I think Chris hates me." "He doesn't hate you. He's just protective." "Of you?" Zach smirked. "Of everyone. But yeah, me especially." "You still haven't told me what that kiss meant to you." Zach didn't answer right away. He pulled at the grass, his fingers restless. "I don't know," he admitted. "I didn't expect it, but I didn't hate it." My heart beat faster. "So what now?" He looked at me, really looked at me. Now we stopped pretending. Back at the cabin, Chris was nowhere to be found. Jake said he went for a drive. I found Ethan in the kitchen, scrolling his phone. "Hey," I said, "can I ask you something?" Ethan looked up. "Sure. What do you know about Zach?" Like, really know. He studied me for a moment. "You mean besides the fact that he's a heartbreaker and doesn't believe in labels?" I raised an eyebrow. "He's been through some stuff," Ethan continued. "Family issues, trust issues, the usual. But deep down, he's looking for someone who actually sees him." I swallowed. Maybe that's why he kissed me. Or maybe I just happened to be there. "Be careful," Ethan added. "Zach doesn't open up easily. And when he does, it's usually messy." That night, I stepped outside, needing to clear my head. The stars were unreal, like the sky had been painted by hand. I heard footsteps behind me. "Zach," he joined me in silence. "I don't want to hurt you," he said softly. "Then don't." He looked at me. "It's not that simple." I turned to face him. "Why? Because you're scared? Or because I scare you?" He didn't answer, but his hand brushed mine. And this time, I didn't pull away. Something had shifted. Something we couldn't take back now. Part 4. Tyler's words from a night before echoed in my head. "I couldn't sleep knowing you were hurting." And yet, he was gone when I woke up. The sheets next to me were cold. His scent still lingered. Faint but real. I sat up slowly, the ache in my chest sharper than ever. I wasn't sure if I'd imagined everything. That late night visit, his hand on mine, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. Had he changed his mind? I got up, walked to the living room. Empty. No note, no text, nothing. Just silence. I spent the day pacing, waiting, wrestling between hope and shame. When the door finally opened that evening, I thought it was him, but it was Zach. "Zach, hey man, you look like crap." "Chris." I gave him a tired smile. "Chris, thanks. You always know how to cheer me up." He sat beside me, scanning my face like he already knew. "Zach, you heard from Tyler?" I shook my head. "Chris." That's when Zach did something unexpected. He reached into his bag and handed me a small, folded note. "Zach." He left this in my car. Told me to give it to you. Said he wasn't sure you'd want to read it. My hands trembled. I unfolded the paper slowly. Tyler's note. "Chris, I don't know how to explain last night. I came to say something, and I lost control. I've never been more scared, because it felt real. Too real, and real things break. I've hurt people before. I don't want to hurt you. That's why I had to leave." I read it twice, then 3 more times. He was running, but not because of me. He was scared of himself. Zach's voice cut through the fog. "Zach, you gonna sit here and mope, or are you gonna go find him?" I blinked. "Chris, I don't know where he is." "Zach, I do." "Chris." 10 minutes later, we were driving down a back road near the lake. Zach had taken a chance. Said Tyler sometimes went there when he needed to be alone. The sun was dipping behind the hills. Everything was orange and gold. And there he was, sitting on the hood of his car, arms folded, staring at the water. He didn't move when I walked up. Didn't even look at me. "Chris, you left your note in someone else's car. Tyler, didn't think you want to read it if I gave it to you myself." "Chris, you're wrong." He sighed. Still wouldn't look at me. Tyler, I'm sorry. I panicked. I've never felt this way before. He finally turned, and his eyes, they looked like mine. Tired, worried, longing. Chris, there was a storm behind him, though, like he was trying to hold something in. Tyler, you don't understand what you're getting into. You think I'm this nice guy with deep thoughts and big feelings, but you don't know the whole picture. Chris, then show me. Tyler, what if it ruins everything? Chris, and what if it saves it? He stood slowly, took a shaky breath, and finally stepped closer. His hand found mine. Tyler, I'm not ready for all the answers, Chris. Chris, me neither, but I'm ready for you. The silence after that was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. He pulled me into him, not desperate, not rushed, but like it had always been meant to happen. Chris, and in that moment, all the confusion, the guilt, the fear, it faded because we were finally here, together, back in the car. Zach was still waiting. I slid into the passenger seat, breathless. Zach, so did you two kiss or what? Chris, none of your business. Zach, that's a yes. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. But in the rear-view mirror, I saw something strange. Jordan, standing at the top of the hill, watching us, his eyes locked with mine. And then he turned away. Chris, why did that feel like something was ending just as something else was beginning? Tyler stood on the front porch, arms crossed, staring into the early morning haze. He hadn't slept. Again, inside, Chris sat at the kitchen counter, sipping black coffee. The silence between them had stretched thin like something was about to snap. I saw Logan last night, Tyler finally said. No drama, just fact. Chris looked up, startled. You what? He set the mug down a little too hard. Tyler didn't flinch. I went to see him, after Ethan's thing. A long beat. He was different. Chris stood, unsure whether to be angry or worried. What do you mean, different? Tyler turned to face him. He asked me to leave town with him. Tonight. Chris blinked. The words didn't process immediately. What? He wants to disappear. Said he's done hiding. Tyler's voice wavered, and he wanted me to go with him. Chris sat back down hard. What did you say? I didn't say anything. I needed to think. He ran a hand through his hair. That's why I'm here. Chris stood, then began pacing. This doesn't make sense. Logan's not impulsive like that. He is now, Tyler muttered. And I think it's because of Zach. That name cut through the room like a blade. Chris froze. What about Zach? Chris asked cautiously. Tyler met his eyes. They were fighting. Not physically, but something heavy, something old. And Logan looked haunted. Chris slowly sat down again. Do you think he's running from Zach? Tyler shrugged. Or maybe towards something he never let himself want. There was a knock on the door. Both men jumped. Ethan's voice came through the wood. Guys, can we talk? I know what you're all trying to protect. Chris opened the door. Ethan looked exhausted, his eyes red. I saw Zach last night too, Ethan said, stepping in. And he told me everything. Tyler stiffened. Everything. Ethan nodded. He told me about the fire, about what he and Logan did, and why none of you can sleep at night. The room fell into silence. Chris looked away. He said if we don't make it right, Ethan continued, someone else will. Tyler exhaled slowly. So what do we do? Ethan stepped forward. We stopped running. Outside, Zach watched from across the street, hidden behind tinted glass. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. Inside, Logan's journal lay open on Chris's desk. A single line scrawled across the page. The truth can't stay buried forever. The air inside Chris's house felt heavier than usual. Like all the walls had started listening. Ethan sat across from Tyler and Chris, the three of them silent, processing everything. Logan's secret, Zach's threat, The choice is no longer avoidable. We need to find Logan, Ethan said firmly, before Zach does something he can't take back. Chris nodded slowly. I think I know where he is. Tyler looked up. Where? Chris stood, grabbing his keys. The lake house. That's where he always went when things got too loud in his head. Ethan followed, but paused at the door. You think he'll even listen to us? Tyler clenched his jaw. He'll listen to me. I just hope I'm not too late. As they drove through winding forest roads, Tyler stared out the window, heart pounding. Flashes of Logan's face haunted his memory, his hands, his words from last night. Come with me? It echoed like a ghost. They pulled up to the lake house as rain began to fall. The air was cold. Still, the front door was ajar. Chris stepped in first. Logan, he called. No response. The place looked untouched. A few scattered notebooks. A damp hoodie draped over the couch. But no Logan. Ethan wandered toward the back room and stopped dead. Guys, he called. You might want to see this. Tyler rushed over. On the desk sat a printed photo. 3 boys in high school, smiling. Logan, Zach, and someone they hadn't seen in years. Who's that? Ethan asked. Chris whispered, Daniel. Tyler felt cold. Daniel moved away after sophomore year. More like vanished, Chris said. Under the photo, someone had scrawled in pen, "We lied to protect each other." But he didn't survive it. Ethan backed away slowly. He's talking about the accident. The one no one ever spoke about. The summer fire. The hospital reports. The unspoken blame. Chris picked up a second paper under the photo. A list of coordinates. And a single phrase. Where it all began. Tyler looked at the others. That's the cabin. The one that burned. Ethan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Tell Tyler not to come. This is between me and him now. Z. Tyler's stomach dropped. Zach was already there. Rain slammed against the windows as thunder rolled in the distance. Chris looked at Tyler. We have to go now. But Tyler was already moving. This time, he wasn't going to let Logan walk into darkness alone. Tyler gripped the steering wheel tighter than ever. His knuckles were white, his heart louder than the thunder above. Ethan sat beside him in the passenger seat, staring at the road ahead. Chris was in the back seat, phone in hand, trying to track Zach's location through his last ping. No one said a word. They didn't need to. Each of them knew. Zach was unraveling. And Logan was caught in the storm of it all. Turn here, Chris suddenly said. The cabin should be just a few miles down that trail. Tyler didn't hesitate. He spun the wheel onto a muddy path, headlights cutting through the trees. And then they saw it. Smoke, a thin, rising column beyond the trees. No flames yet, but it was starting. Tyler slammed the brakes. Threw the door open. Go around back. If anything happens, call 911, he told Chris. Ethan grabbed Tyler's arm. Don't do this alone. Tyler looked at him, eyes tired, terrified, but determined. I'm not. I have to do this for him. Tyler ran toward the cabin. The closer he got, the more it smelled like gasoline. And there, inside the broken frame of the cabin, stood Zach, drenched, shaking, and holding a lighter. Logan was on the floor, tied, mouth gagged, eyes wide. Zach! Tyler shouted. Stepping through the door, Zach turned slowly, his face streaked with tears. He was going to tell the truth. Tyler raised his hands. What truth, Zach? Zach's lips trembled. He was going to tell everyone what we did, what we let happen to Daniel. The room went still. Logan made a sound under the gag. You think we forgot? Zach cried. I live with it every day. Tyler took a step forward. I know, but this won't fix it. Zach's grip on the lighter faltered. He looked down at Logan, then back at Tyler. I loved him too, you know, Zach whispered. But he loved you. Tyler blinked, stunned. What are you talking about? Logan, Zach muttered. He's always looked at you like you're everything. And I hated it, because no matter what I did, I was never you. Tyler's throat burned, but he didn't move closer. One wrong step could end everything. You don't have to be me, he said softly. You're you, Zach. And somewhere deep down, you're better than this. Zach's hand trembled. The lighter slipped, fell, but didn't ignite. Silence. Only the rain tapping the broken roof. Zach dropped to his knees, sobbing. I didn't know what else to do. Tyler rushed to Logan, ripping off the gag, untying the ropes. Logan gasped for air, then pulled Tyler into him. You came, Logan whispered. Tyler didn't answer. He just held him tighter. Behind them, Zach sat in the ash and dirt, broken but breathing. And outside, sirens began to wail in the distance. Ethan and Chris stood by the road, waving the police toward the cabin. Everything was ending, or maybe just beginning. That night, they gave their full statements. About Daniel, the fire, the guilt, everything that had remained buried for years. Logan's parents were called. So were Zach's, but Tyler stayed behind. By Logan's side, hand in hand, quietly healing. I thought I lost you, Logan murmured. You didn't, Tyler said. You never will. The stars began to peer above the trees, and for the first time in a long while, Logan finally looked up, without fear, without running, and he smiled. Part 5. The knock at the door came just as I was brushing my teeth. It was late, way too late for it to be casual. I wiped my mouth, heart already racing, and opened the door. It was Zach, soaked from the rain, hoodie clinging to him, eyes bloodshot. Can I come in? He asked quietly. I stepped aside, not trusting my voice. He walked past me like he'd done it 100 times before, but everything felt different now. I shouldn't be here, he muttered, pacing the floor. But I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't stop thinking about you. I froze. Those words, they shattered something in me. Zach, what are you saying? My voice cracked. He turned to me slowly. The night of the bonfire, when Chris left early, I saw the way you looked at me, and I felt something I shouldn't have felt. I swallowed hard. The silence between us was heavy. I thought I imagined it. I whispered. You didn't, he said. I kissed her that night just to prove to myself I didn't want you, but it didn't work. His voice broke then, and so did I. He stepped closer, his hand shaking slightly, but his eyes never left mine. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's real or if I'm just scared of losing you, but I needed you to know. My heart thundered. I could feel the weight of every unspoken word between us, pressing, begging to be let out. Why now? I asked, after all this time. He shrugged helplessly. Because I saw the way Jason looked at you today, and for the first time, I realized I might not be the only one falling for you. I laughed, soft disbelieving. Zach, you're jealous? I'm terrified, he admitted, of losing something I didn't even let myself want until now. We stood there, inches apart, rain still dripping from his hair. I'm not saying I have it figured out, he continued. I'm just saying, don't give your heart away yet. Not until I've had a real chance to earn it. And then he turned, walked back to the door, but paused before leaving. Good night, Ethan. He didn't wait for a reply, just walked out, leaving me in the doorway, stunned, breathless, heart shaking. I stood there for a long time, long after the door closed. The storm outside didn't match the one inside me, because everything was different now. The truth was out, and someone else, Jason, was already starting to pull me in the opposite direction. Who did I want? Zach? Or the safer, warmer comfort Jason had started to offer? Or maybe the real question was, who truly wanted me for me? The next morning, everything felt heavier, like I had woken up inside someone else's story, someone who didn't know what the hell to do with his own heart. I kept replaying Zach's words, his eyes, his voice cracking as he stood in my doorway. But I also thought about Jason, how kind he was, how easy things felt when I was with him. And the truth? I felt pulled in two completely different directions. One burned like fire. The other felt like a warm blanket. I was halfway through making coffee when I got a text. Jason, hey, you free? Want to get breakfast? Just the two of us this time. I stared at it, typed sure, then deleted it. Typed maybe later, deleted that too. Eventually I just sent, Ethan, yeah, where? We met at this tiny diner across town. No one we knew ever came here. Maybe that was a point. Jason was already seated when I arrived. Black hoodie, messy hair, and that quiet smile that made me feel seen. I already ordered your pancakes, he said. You always take forever to decide. I smiled, even though my chest felt tight. Thanks. For a while, we talked like nothing had changed. School, a dumb TikTok trend. His dog chewing through his charger again. But eventually, he got quiet, and I knew it was coming. Ethan, he set down his fork. Can I ask you something and get a real answer? I nodded slowly. Yeah. Do you like him? He didn't have to say the name. I knew exactly who he meant. I dropped my gaze. I don't know. I whispered. Jason let out a soft breath. I think you do. Then added, but maybe not in the way you think. That made me look up. What do you mean? He shrugged. I think you're addicted to the idea of him, because he's always been just out of reach. And people like us, we chase what we can't have. That hit me hard, like he had reached into my chest and read everything I tried to bury. But what if I started, then stopped? What if you didn't have to chase anything? Jason asked gently. What if someone was already here, waiting to catch you? I felt the sting in my eyes before I could stop it. You mean you? He nodded, biting his lip. I'm not trying to make it complicated. I just want to be honest. Jason reached across the table, brushing his fingers against mine. Not a full grab, just a soft, deliberate touch. I'm not going to compete with him, he said. But I won't pretend I don't feel something when I look at you. The bell over the door chimed, and like fate hated clarity, Zach walked in, drenched in his football jacket, eyes darting, and then landing directly on us. Jason pulled his hand back slowly. Zach didn't blink. He walked straight to our table, voice sharp. I didn't know we were all hanging out today. Jason stayed calm, but I felt like I was drowning. I'm not doing this here, I whispered, voice low, barely above a breath. I stood up and grabbed my jacket, my head spinning. You two figure out, I said, stepping away. I need some air. But even outside, the air didn't help. It was thick with everything I was feeling, everything I was afraid of. Zach had opened the door. Jason had offered a hand. But which one would actually hold my heart without breaking it? I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the message on my phone. Chris, can we talk? I'm outside. My heart thudded. It was like everything paused. The air, my thoughts, my breathing. I hadn't seen him since the night at the lake, since we said too much, or maybe not enough. I stood slowly, walked toward the door like my legs didn't belong to me. When I opened it, there he was, Chris, hoodie pulled over his head, eyes red like he hadn't slept all night. Hey, he said quietly. Hey, I replied. Silence stretched between us like an invisible thread about to snap. Then he looked at me with that expression, the one I could never read, but always felt deep in my chest. Can we go somewhere? Just us. I nodded. Didn't ask why. Didn't ask where. We ended up at the beach. The same place he once told me he didn't believe in fate. Waves were quiet tonight, like they were listening. I messed up, Chris said finally. His voice cracked a little. I looked over, but he wasn't looking at me, just at the ocean. I keep running from things I feel. I tell myself lies because it's easier than facing the truth. I swallowed, hard. What truth? I asked gently. Chris turned to me, eyes glassy, vulnerable. That I think about you all the time. That when I kissed you, I wasn't confused. I knew exactly what I was doing. It felt like everything inside me collapsed in on itself. Hope, doubt, longing, fear, all tangled together. "So why did you pull away?" I asked. "Because I was scared," he admitted. "Because I didn't want to ruin us. And maybe because I wasn't ready." I took a step closer. We were standing inches apart now. "And now," I whispered. He looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered in the world. "Now, I'm still scared." He smiled bitter and soft. "But I'm more scared of losing you." I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I just wrapped my arms around him. He sank into me like he'd been waiting for this moment forever. We stood there, two people who had broken and bled and doubted, finally still, finally breathing in sync. "I don't know what happens next," Chris murmured against my neck, "but I want to figure out with you." The ocean kept whispering, but for once, I wasn't listening to anything except the way his heart beat against mine. And just like that, the silence between us became something beautiful, something true. Moral of the story: people often fear what they don't understand, but love has the power to break through hatred, confusion, and internalized shame.